we gotta do is live. All we gotta do is live. All we gotta do is live. You feeling good today. All we gotta do is live. All we gotta do is live. All we gotta do is live. We feeling good.
Hey everybody, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you're watching us from. We want to tell you greetings. I hope everybody is having an amazing day. My name is Dr. Loretta, and today we are going to talk about the myths of marriage. Yeah, there's a lot of conversation out there about marriage, but today we're going to talk about some of those myths that we have, or some of those preconceived notions that people kind of share with us that is really not true about marriage. One of the key factors to marriage is making sure that, well, for a successful marriage, is to make sure that you get some type of premarital counseling where you sit down with maybe your pastor or a counselor or someone to discuss the ins and outs of marriage before you get married. And today it is our hope that for those of you who are planning to get married, as you are watching this episode, that you will get a better understanding of some of the ways to sustain a healthy and happy marriage, as well as for those of you who may already be married and maybe be facing a couple hurdles. We hope that the information that we share today will lead and guide you and help you to straighten those crooked places out, if you will, and to increase the level of sustainability of your marriage. Today, I have three special guests with me today, and I'm going to bring my guests on today. First and foremost, I would like to introduce to you to Mr. and Mrs. Dwight Davis. They are joining us from all the way from the U.S. Good morning. Good morning. Hi, can you introduce yourself to everyone?
My name is Doris Davis, and we're, as Pastor Dr. Loretta said, we're from the United States and actually from North Carolina. We have been married 40 plus years, and we're just excited to be here this morning.
And I'm Pastor Dwight Davis, the pastor of God's Word Foundation Christian Center here in the city of Greensboro. And we're excited. We want to talk about these myths and hopefully eliminate some of the heartaches that can be caused in marriage.
And you know, the statistics say in the U.S. that in America, the statistics state that 43%, that's 2.4 million couples, will divorce this year. Wow. That is astronomical. So we want to make sure that if you want to spend all the money on the dress and on the cake and everything else, that you take the time to get a better understanding of your spouse before you say, I do. Welcome so much to the Davises. I'm now going to bring in our next guest, Miss Ashley, who is joining me here in Dubai. Miss Ashley,
hello, good evening. It is such a big pleasure to be with you. Hello, it's such a big pleasure to be with you here again, and such an honor to be with Mr. and Mrs. Davis. A big heart to you for being together for 40 years, 40 more to go. You're so inspiring for sure. And I am Ashley. I'm from UAE. I am hopefully will be married for the coming 40 years. It's my second marriage. I was once married, now happily married again with more wisdom and consciousness. And I look forward to share some of my experiences, good and bad, and how to make your former mistakes or former weaknesses into strength and more power for you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for joining us, Miss Ashley. You know, today we're going to talk about one of the misconceptions that everything will get better once we get married. Everything that was wrong in my life will no longer be wrong, and my significant other is going to make it grand. But we realize that people spend approximately $500 billion on the wedding, the reception, and the honeymoon. And none of that money is actually spent on premarital counseling or preparing them for the marriage. So we look forward to you sharing, because this is your second marriage. So we look forward to you sharing some of the things about your first marriage that led to the second marriage, as well as some of the ways that these couples can stay in there and make it to the end, to make it to those 40 years like the Davises. I'm now going to bring in my last guest, Miss Angelica. Greetings, Miss
Hello.
Angelica. Good evening. Can you please introduce yourself to everyone?
Good evening, everyone. Good evening, Dr. Loretta, Pastor DeWitt, and Doris Davis, and Alicia. It's a pleasure being here tonight. My name is Angelica McDestiny. I'm a professional educator, a life skills trainer, a career coach, and a marriage and family counselor. I've been married for 16 years, and I'm very passionate about marriage because I know that marriage is a good thing. It's just that people need to just like the way we go to school and we get our degrees, our certificates, our qualifications, we don't really go out to learn and study about marriage. So I'm so excited tonight to share a lot of my experiences about the myths that everything will be right when you get married if you've already gotten it wrong in the beginning. So it's really a great honor to be here with you all tonight. And I look forward to this chat. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for joining us, Miss Angelica. I want to thank all of our panel members for joining us today. It is greatly appreciated. So now we're just going to jump right into our topic. Our topic for today is everything bad in my life. Everything bad in my life will get better once I get married. I'm going to say, who wants to take this one first? Well, anyone want to take? I can start us off.
Well, let me jump in. First of all, I think a lot of people think that the other person is going to fix them. That does not happen. If you go in broken, you're going to just add more to the problem.
Yes.
Main thing is you've got to make sure that you're fixed before you start, and you're whole and you're complete and you're well established in yourself before you start trying to bring someone else into the equation, because all that does is compounds, okay, and it causes more issues and problems.
And to add to that, I think people always say, well, my 50% and his 50% make us whole, but you have to be whole beforehand. You have to be 100% before you enter into that marriage commitment.
Absolutely. And that's just kind of pretty much right to the meat of what we're going to talk about today. That is truly a myth that you will, once you get married, they'll make you better or they'll make you whole. And that is certainly not the truth. Anytime you enter into a marriage, you must enter into it, as Ms. Dolores said, whole yourself. Now, part of that understanding of being whole is what makes you whole. And what are the things that you are trying to circumvent or you are trying to avoid by jumping into a relationship with another person? You have to address those issues and you have to look at those issues. Marriage is not, and I repeat, it is not a fairy tale. It is not. It is not like Disney makes it out to be. You don't kiss your Prince Charming. You don't kiss the frog, and he turns into a prince. Exactly. If you kiss the frog, he's still going to be a frog.
Be a frog. Exactly.
So understand that.
Exactly.
It will not change and it will not make you better. Miss Angelica, would you like to share something?
Yeah, exactly. Because a frog is a frog. I mean, the kiss or the love is not going to change the frog if the frog doesn't decide to change. And you know what you were saying about wholeness. First of all, before you decide to get married, you must find yourself.
Yeah.
That's about the wholeness.
Yeah.
You know who you are, you know your weaknesses, you know your strengths, you know the things that you're struggling with, and you deal with those issues.
Yeah.
It's not about 50-50. Okay, I'm this way, we'll work it out together. No, you should be able to work it out yourself. the
Yes.
things that you're struggling with, maybe things that happened in your childhood as you were growing up, and you have not been able to deal with those issues. Your partner is not going to help you deal with them.
Yeah.
You should be able to acknowledge those issues and be able to heal from those issues to be able to be whole in your marriage. Now,
Yes.
saying that whatever issues bad that you have, that in marriage is going to get better. Mm-mm. If you don't deal with it,
True.
in marriage, it's going to be two times.
Yes.
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 Just that the myth is that people think, oh, when I marry him or when I marry her, I'm going to make her better. I'm going to make her feel secured. Security comes from self,
Hmm.
not
Yes.
from the partner. So
Yes.
until you believe that you are secured within yourself, then whatever your partner is doing will be able to come in and stay. So
Yes.
when people are not able to deal with those issues, thinking that the next person is going to help them deal with them, they're making a huge mistake.
Right.
So
Yes.
that's why that the same issues you're facing in marriage is going to be worse. I have
Yes.
situations whereby I've canceled people and they said, yeah, very funny. Yeah, I know he has these issues, but I am going through the counseling to help me deal with those issues. And I'm like, for real? So it's time that people know that for you to have a good marriage, it takes two. And
Yeah.
those two people have to be whole people.
I was married previously. I think I'm the only divorcee here that's on the panel. And in my previous marriage, he was much older than me. He was a good, I'm not going to take anything away from him, say he was a bad. He actually, but he was just much more older than I was. And hence created the problem of insecurity. And in my foolish thinking, I thought that, once we get married, that he would be okay, right? Look, if I'm choosing to marry you, then it should be all right, at least. And that was my thinking. I thought that it would make things better. Do I need to tell anybody on this panel? It actually just continued, and it got to the point to where I couldn't handle it. I couldn't deal with it any longer because it became an issue of every time I go out the door, someone my age or something different was possible, and it just the insecurity, it just did not get better. And ultimately, we did end up getting a divorce. I tell people my story, and I'll tell you that the first year it was God fix him. The second year it was God fix me. The third year it was God do something. The fourth year it was God get me out. By the fifth year, glory to God, he got me out. We walked away. Everybody was happy. No, no fighting, no none of that. It was very peaceful. It was a peaceful separation, but it taught me that lesson that of what we're talking about. If there's a problem before you get married,
Mm,
it's going to be there
yeah,
after you say I
you
do.
do.
And Miss Ashley, what would you like to add to this conversation, dear?
First of all, listening to that, I truly wish I have known you before, of course,
Oh,
indeed. And then may God bless the other guests, especially Mr. and Mrs. Davis and Angelica, that happily long term marriage is never a coincidence but self awareness. So
yes.
if we cannot create an I, we cannot create a we. This is what we
Mm,
have to understand, and you have mentioned. So either recovering something for the other part or waiting for someone to recover you is an
Mm,
unmet expectation.
mm,
So
mm,
if there is something bad, it will just get worse. And if there is something good, it will just get better. So before we make sure that everything is settled as myself, we should never get into that path to walk together, because marriage is a path, it's not a destination. The
mm,
destination is where we all, nevertheless, no matter what religion we are blessed with a soulmate. It's all about finding that person. And and go to the heaven, we have to walk together, rise by lifting each other. So just like Mrs. Davis has mentioned and Miss Angelica has mentioned, it's all about wholeness in self and having that self-awareness. And yes, you were so right. Kissing the frog, you will just be keeping kissing the frog as long as you can resist it. There's nothing's going. So you that prince that is
Yes.
already been the prince. So
Yes. So as we are discussing this, and we're all pretty much saying the same thing, that if you have a problem going in, you're going, whatever you start out with is what
Yes.
you're going to have. So my question to you all is, what are some of the steps to begin the healing process? Like, if like Miss Angelica says, she had a couple where apparently they were in love because they realized they had a problem and they figured counseling by itself was going to fix it. What advice would you give those who need to start that healing process and who want to go to counseling, but you know what I mean? Like, if there's something wrong, we can agree
Yeah.
there is something
Yeah.
wrong, but they want to stay together. What can they do?
Okay. I could start, right?
Yes.
Yeah. For what they need to do, the most important thing is that two of them know that they have a problem and they want to fix that problem. That's a good one, a beautiful one. Now, the second step is to be able to lay the cards on the table. You know what your issues are, you know what your challenges are. You are able to be honest with yourselves. Just like naked and not ashamed. Whatever it is, the challenge, whatever it is that had happened that brought you to that point of not being whole, of struggling with a lot of things in your marriage, you should be as much as naked and not ashamed with your partner and say, these are the problems and these are the issues that I'm having. So when you take that to a counselor, the counselor is going to help you. What I'm going to help you to do is begin to go on the journey of what caused this, what are your fears, what are your anxieties, what are the things that you think that is going to show up maybe from your past, or what the things that you saw while you're growing up. So we begin to deal with those issues. And when we've discovered that we have dealt with those issues and we know that the partner that we have, it's not the problem, but the things that we have carrying on our shoulders before we got married. So when you're able to deal with these things, now the healing process has begun. Now you're not looking at your partner as the bad person, as the person who doesn't understand you. Now both of you now understand where your struggles are coming from. That is not the other partner, that it has to do with who you were and who you are trying to become. So that's exactly where the healing process begins.
I'm so glad you said that, because the majority of the time, the problem is not with them, because people they are who they are.
Right.
You can't change a grown up. You can't
Yes.
raise a grown man. He
Yes.
already grown. You can't raise a grown woman. She already grown. So the
Yeah.
process has to begin within us, who we
Yes.
are and what we want. And Pastor Davis, Pastor Dwight, Pastor Davis, did you want to add to that? Did you want to say something?
Yeah, I think he hit a good strong point. We've got to get to the root of the problem.
Yes.
A lot of times we don't deal with the root of the problem. We deal with the surface. And we think that if we deal with the surface, that just covers up the problem. We've got to get to the root of the problem. You've got to think about, how were you raised? You got to break some traditions and
Yes.
things that you have been brought up in, because a lot of times what you were raised in is what you end up bringing to the relationship.
Exactly.
Yes.
So you got
Exactly.
to get rid of those things, throw those things out the window. One of the things we found out is you normally ask them to do 3 questions. We tell them to write down 5 things that you love about the person. And they usually write that down real good.
Yes.
We give them a sheet and say, now I want you to write down 3 things that you dislike about the person. And this is where you get into the problem, where they start saying, well, I can't really think of anything, and I don't. We know that doesn't make good sense. I said,
Right. Right.
that's not right. There's something that you don't like about that
Yes,
person.
about them.
And so we try to get them to discuss those issues that they don't like. The things that you like is not an issue. It's the things that you don't like. And then we start asking them questions. Are you willing to accept this? Because if you say you are, then that should never be an issue anymore.
Yes.
Okay. If you say you're not willing to accept it, then you need to deal with this. You need to confront this now, because it will only get worse. And so that's trying to get people to open up, to start communicating about the difficult things, more so than just the pleasantries.
Exactly.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Dr. Loretta, you brought out a
Yeah,
good
so
I want
much true, and I am writing so many things down because I, of course, respect so many
Yes.
happily marriages here. And the thing is, just like you, what I can relate
Mm-mm.
because it's my second marriage now, and of course, I'm trying to not focus on my past stuff and past is
Yeah.
past, but how my past can convert my future and what I can create new habits
Okay.
to
Mm.
make my future and this God blessing marriage be happily ever after, let's say 40 more years ahead. So, just like you have said, right now, what we are trying to do with my husband is to focus on there is a comfort zone called I, and there
Mm-mm.
is a zone that we want to grow together called the we. What
Okay.
we
Mm.
both can bring as salt and pepper in that we zone. And
Yeah.
instead of the things that, because we are already plus 40, obviously, it's not easy to
Yes.
change. But what we can create together is the we focus. And now Mr. and Mrs. Doris, I just wrote the 5 things I'm going to do the system in my life. I'm going to immediately check after this session. And of course, it's all about knowing the self and creating a zone where we can grow together.
Yeah.
Yes.
So it's the zone to create marriage. Yeah, very,
Yes.
very, very amazing. And a
Thank
consulate.
you. Yes. Thank you so much. And Miss Davis, did you want to share as well?
Yes, you brought out a good point of talking about, and I think it deserves to be mentioned again, is we have to be willing to change. You can
Yes.
Mm.
go to counseling, but if you're
Yes.
not honest,
Yes.
what because the counselor can only work with your honesty.
Yes.
Then once these issues are brought to surface, you have to be willing to make a change. And I think that's a problem. A lot of times people want change, but they're not
Yes.
willing to
Wait,
make a
tell
change.
me to finish. Yeah, I'd like to throw in
Yes.
something there. Like I always like to. I've been married for 16 years, and before I got married, in African tradition, men are we have a lot of people come from polygamous families. I came from a polygamous family, and I didn't have the experience of just mommy and daddy. But when I understood by God's grace, God by Himself made me understand that marriage was a good thing. And I was said, fine, if it's a good thing, let's do it. Help me find a partner to do this. Then when I met my husband, I laid the card on the table. He understood from where I was coming from. He understood my fears, my anxiety, the things that we're worried about. And we laid this card on the table and we told ourselves that's what most couples don't do. You burn the bridge. We told ourselves, no divorce. This is who I am. This is where I'm coming from. I'm ready to help you go on this journey because you believe that this journey is what's
Mm.
going. So that's one of the things that had helped me the 16 years because each day, because you find out as you're getting older, things are changing. You're not
Yes.
longer that shy little girl, you're maturing, you're beginning to see a whole lot of things and you're beginning to ask yourself questions. Your partner should be able to go also on that journey with you because
Yes.
he understands you, he knows where you're going to, he knows where you're coming from. He's not scared, he's not intimidated. So these are the things that even people who are about to marry and those who are married are not, telling themselves the truth.
Mm.
So whatever it is that the person that you're joining to has as a challenge, you should be able to open up to that partner because there is
Yes.
a vision. That's one thing I forgot to say. Vision is key. It's not just
Yes.
enough that, oh, I love you, I love him, we're getting married. Yes. What is the purpose of that marriage? What is the purpose of coming together to be with that one person in the midst of the millions of guys or the millions of ladies that both of you have come across? What is the vision? Because when you burn the bridge, it is the vision that will keep you to sort out whatever challenge. Because this
Mm-hmm.
love thing, let's tell ourselves the truth, Pastor Dewitt and Mrs. Davis. There are times you wake up in the morning for crying out loud, you don't feel that love. Honestly. But when you remember the vision and why you got in the first place, you gotta make it work.
Yes.
Because
Yes.
marriage
Love
is
is
hard work.
certainly one of those love is certainly one of those fleeting emotions. It's like
Yeah.
happiness. I might be happy right now at this moment, but give me 10 minutes.
Oh yes.
One text, one phone call, one email, and that changes forever. So when you're considering, when you're building that bridges and when you're creating that partnership,
Yes.
I think it is really, I think you all hit the nail on the head. It must start from within. We must be willing to do the work within ourselves. We must be willing to say, maybe it's not him or her. Maybe it's something my grandmother taught me that probably wasn't the right thing to teach me. And now here I am imposing this onto her or him because this is what I was taught. Pastor Dwight, did you want to speak? Go ahead, sir. I'm sorry.
No, that's fine. That's fine. One of the things, and I think Dr. Angelina has spoken on, is we looked at divorce was not an option. So we entered the relationship with the mindset that we're gonna make it work, and we've basically been able to communicate, and that's been the real key, I think, for our marriage. And then when we look at it from divorce is not an option, then you look at it as a saying that if we work at this together, because we understand that we were two individuals from the beginning, okay, and when you come together, you're still not completely one, okay. And most people, if we're really honest, we don't get married for love, we get married for lust. If we really want to be honest about it, we get married for lust, okay? And so we got to understand that, okay, and that's why there's so many relationships or infidelity that is in marriages, because of the lust, okay? And so if you could change that lust from one person to the next, you realize that, okay, it wasn't really love. Let's work at the relationship, because the love is shown in how you could be committed in the relationship.
Statistically, the honeymoon phase is over at year 3. And that's where if we remember, and I know I remember, and if those of you all are married, you're chuckling, so I know it must be about right.
Dr. Loretta.
Statistically, the honeymoon phase is over, and that's the moment when you look at that person and go, do I really like you? Because that's the part where we really have to start. By year 3 is where we start really, the mask is off of everybody. You know, we were over the honeymoon phase, and now it's time to really, for us to be husband and wife. So with that, with that understanding, with that being said, Pastor Dwight, that makes sense. And it's true that when you enter, I like what you said, when you enter into a marriage, you should enter into it that divorce is not an option. It's unfortunate that our society today has come to the point to where it's not, divorce is not an option. It is, divorce is the option. You get on my nerves, you get sick. I don't like the way your shoes smell. I got more money. That's it. You got to go. And that's unfortunate.
Can I add something to that?
Yes, sir.
In our Western culture, we train people to divorce. The school years, boy likes girl, girl likes boy, they boyfriend, girlfriend. That breaks off. What do? We go find another. We are teaching folk to divorce.
Exactly.
So you understand that when people get married, they look at a way. If it doesn't work, I continue this cycle. Well, if it didn't work here, I'll get somebody else new. We are in the Western culture, we are conditioning people to divorce.
Yes.
I also, can I come in there, Dr. Loretta?
Yes. Before you comment, wait 1 second, before you comment, I'm gonna let everybody comment, but I do, as our time is kind of getting close and winding down, I do want to share with everyone who is watching us, if you have a question that you would like to ask our panelists, please feel free to type it in the chat, and our panelists are open and available to answer those questions for you. We have Mr. Dwight and Dolores Davis has been married for over 40 years, so they come with a wealth of information. Pastor Davis sits as a pastor. I keep saying Pastor Davis because that's what I know you as, is my brother in Christ. Pastor Davis is sitting here. He's a pastor, so he comes with a wealth of information. We also have the beautiful Miss Aswa, who is here with us, and she's also been married for 16 years. This is her second marriage. So she also comes from a different religious background. So she also has a wealth of information that she can share. And lastly, but certainly not least, we have Miss Angelica, who is also here with us, who serves as a marriage counselor. She is from Africa, so she is familiar with African culture, African belief systems. So we have a wealth of information. I am excited about this panel. We have a wealth of information here. So if you have any questions, please feel free to type them in the chat, and we will do our best to answer them before we close out our session today. And Miss Angelica, I'm going to go back to you now. If you can remember what you were
I'm
saying.
trying to remember what I was. I'm trying to remember what I was trying to say.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I was trying to say that it is not just the Western world that is being trained for divorce. The whole world is.
Yes.
Because even in Africa, there are a lot of people are beginning to think that way. I saw this TikTok ad, um, two people trying to want to get married, and everybody, the other one was saying, okay, I have a job, I earn in six figures. The other one says, I have a job, I earn in six figures. They said, okay, good, good, good. The other one said, oh, I have a house. I said, oh, I also have a house. And the other one said, oh, I love to go to Paris for my holiday. And the other one said, oh, I want 3 kids. The other one said 2 kids. The other one said 3. The other one says, okay, fine, it's not working, let's go. And I'm like, oh my goodness.
Yes. Yeah.
That's it. That wasn't why marriage was made in the
Right.
first place.
Mm-hmm.
Because I've also come to learn over the 16 years that marriage also is about partnership.
Yes.
Yes.
When you have a
Yes.
company, you have board of directors, people are talking, we have our differences. It's not like in the 16 years that I and my husband don't have our differences, because we both have our perspective to life. But we
Mm-mm-mm.
always come back to the drawing board and say, hey, in the boardroom, like my husband, my husband always tells our kids that I am the MD, he is the chairman. We say, okay, let's go to the board. So what is this? How are we going to deal with this? How are we going to manage this? In our vision, we say that by this time we should have gone here. We are not there. So what are we doing wrong? So you see, it's the mindset. In spite of where I was coming from, I didn't know this, but because I have chosen that this is good and this is going to work, and we need to teach the young ones coming after us these things. That is about
Yeah.
partnership, for crying out loud. It's not
Yes.
about what I have or what I own
Yes.
or what I think I'm going to become. Whatever it is that you're going to become is the two of you. It
Yes.
doesn't matter. Like in
Yes.
Africa, when you get married, you take on your father's family name. You don't answer your median name.
Yeah.
So you're celebrated in both ways. There is nothing that, oh, you're doing it for him or you're doing it for her. It's for partnership,
Yeah.
and the
Yeah.
growth is for all of you and for everyone.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
what I wanted to throw in there.
Okay.
No, thank you so much, Miss
Yes,
Ashley.
bro.
Good. Yes. Miss Ashley,
Actually, yeah, I wanted to say something, because yes, it is so true that we have to understand that the marriage is not legal dating. So we cannot just consider it, "Oh, okay, it's not working. Let me, I got always the option B to get divorced." We have to understand the heaviness of the words, and we have to understand the blessing
Mm-hmm.
of
yes.
the marriage. And it is actually marriage is, in, I think it's in the old beliefs that it's a god gift. So there's a
Mm,
soulmate. It's all
yes.
about fine. It's not that, okay, it was a legal dating, I try, I don't try. Maybe now, when I check from my culture, I'm from Turkey. We are very family oriented, and we like to please the families, and most of the first marriages are to
Mm,
please the family. We don't really care about what we want. That is the basic thing. As we say, okay, it's a legal dating, I don't make my parents down. But it's not easy to get married, to spend all this time heavy, because marriage is a fairy tale, and may it always last forever, because it is the life that you make. Two people gather together with all these energies. And yes, God bless you, Mr. Davis. You have said so well, lost is like sitting on a table when you are hungry. You basically just want to eat it. So, no, you have to focus. You have to say, what will happen when I get sick, when I get old, when I get tired, when I get poor,
Yes.
even in the good day and the bad day. So, yes, I am happily married now. I'm never proud to have been divorced. It should have been like this. It is a God blessing,
Hmm.
Yes.
in a way. But now that I know what is a marriage, now I know it's all about the respect and
Mm,
all
Mhm.
about
mm,
the gut feeling and
mm,
seeing the God in Him, seeing the
mm,
God blessing in everything we do, no
mm,
matter what. Respect has one description, good has got one description. In my
mm,
religion, it says do good. In other religions, it says be good, but it's
mm,
the good. So, just
mm,
like you have said, marriage is a team of two, and what
mm,
you can bring in together, but you have to bring what is good together. If it
mm.
is
Yes.
bad, like you have mentioned, Dr. Loretta, it's going to be two times the bad.
Yes. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Exactly.
Yes,
That is
exactly.
so
I can absolutely
beautiful. I am so blessed tonight. So blessed tonight because I see successful, inspiring marriages. This
yes.
is what is good. Marriage is to last forever and a day.
Mhm.
Hmm.
Yes.
Yes.
And I
Yes.
can and I can say I absolutely agree with all of you. And I definitely want to point out, as someone who is on the other side, I'm a bit older than I look. I tell people all the time, I'll be 50 next month. Glory to, if I live that long, glory, I'll be 50 next month.
Wow. Awesome.
I'll be 50. And one of the things is I can say for sure, as and I'm still single. But one of the things I can say for sure is that I absolutely agree with the partnership. The older I get, the more I realize that whoever it is that I would get involved with, or whoever it is that I would marry, he would have to be my partner.
Yeah.
There's just at this point we would have to be helping each other because we're on that other side. My question is, do you have insurance, baby? And if you have insurance, if you don't have none, can we go out and get you some life insurance policy today? Because if we wait until we court 2 years, it might be too expensive for us to get you a policy. So can we do that now today?
Okay.
Like preparing ourselves that if I go down, baby, can you pay the light bill? Because if you can't pay the light bill, then we might need to consider doing something different,
Yes.
And I ain't even
Yes.
talk about the house payment yet. So there's so many things to consider now versus when I was in my youngers, when I was in my 20s and my 30s, I really did have the pleasure for lust, Maybe we can figure out and make it work. But now on this side, it's like, baby, we need to be partners. You need
Mm-hmm.
to be able to pull your share, and I'll
Yeah.
pull my share. I'll let
Yeah.
you be the head of the house, but I need
Mm,
you to make sure you can pay the light bill if I get sick. So,
mm,
the conversation is definitely different on this side. And
mm,
even as I say that, the conversation in our topic today was everything will get better once I get married.
mm,
The things in my life will change once I get married.
mm,
And I have to honestly say that I didn't come to this conclusion of saying I need a partner or
mm,
or this is how things needed to be until
mm,
after I went through the healing process.
Mhm.
Hmm.
So for those of you who are desiring to get married and you're saying I want to get married, make sure you go through that healing process,
process.
because
Yeah.
every relationship that you've had before your spouse has
Mm,
left something with you.
Yes.
Yes.
You
Yes.
yes.
have to get that thing off of you. You have to heal yourself. You have to
Exactly.
be where you need to be in
To
order
be.
to make your current marriage
Marriage.
work
Mm,
for the two of you. Cannot take the expectations of Tom and give them
mm,
to Jerry. And
mm,
nor
Right.
can you
exactly.
take the expectations of
Right.
Mary
Mm,
and give them
mm,
to Sally. It
Yes.
doesn't
mm,
work that way, beloved. So I'm
exactly.
saying to you today, if things are not right before you go into it, beloved,
Mm,
it ain't going to be right when you
right.
get into it. Take
Exactly.
the time to heal yourself. Go through the counseling process.
Mm,
Pray. pray a lot
And
for
what?
guidance.
Exactly.
No matter what your faith is, read your holy books. Read them, let them guide you, let them lead you, so that you know for sure that you know when you say your I do's, they will be like the Davises for 50 and 40 years, and you'll be able to make it through those tough times. Because, beloved, if you live long enough, I can promise you, tough times
Will come.
will come.
Need to
But
be.
if you prepare yourself before you say I do, you'll be able to make it through those tough times.
Together.
We're getting ready to wrap it up. And we do have one question here. It is from in our chat, is from Miss Lisa. She is asking, she is saying that her husband was born and raised and believes in staying in marriage, but he is good to go out drinking, having girlfriends and friends encouraging. How does she handle that from the outside culture? I believe she's asking. She's Canadian. She's Canadian in Africa. Miss Angelique, I'm gonna let you take this one.
Okay. I'm trying to understand what she's saying. She's saying the husband likes to go out to drink.
It looks
I
like that, and he's hanging out with friends and he's having girlfriends and friends encouraging him to
to
do
do
that.
that.
She's Canadian, so this is
Okay.
not part of her culture. She's not
Culture.
sure
Okay.
what to do in this instance. And
Okay.
they're already married. The key, wait, back up. She's already married,
Ex-
so we gotta address it as
yes.
such.
I think what she has to do, first of all, she needs to have a conversation with him. She needs to understand why the drinking, why the friends, and if what I think is who the guy is, some African men feel that they are the husband. You don't query them. You don't tell them what to do. I think she should get the drinks for him at home instead of him drinking outside. Get the drinks, invite his friends over to the house, and let him party in the house. Then that's the first step. Then the next step is to find out from him, why is he doing this, of what benefits. She should say it in a very softful, playful, not trying to be authoritative over him, because that's one of the things African men don't like, to make it look like as if it's the wife telling them what to do or how to run their life.
Mm-mm.
So she should actually try to make him see what he's doing, the effect of what he's doing in the relationship. And the next thing I'm going to ask her to do is to pray. Because the truth is, whatever the man is doing, I'm sure is what he had seen growing up, or a lifestyle he had had, and she thought he would stop when they eventually get married. So now he hasn't changed. She should try these few steps of getting him to invite the friends over, doing the drinking in the house, having the conversation with him why he's doing this and how she feels about that, in a way, lovingly caring, not being authoritative. And she has to pray. If she's a Christian, she has to pray. She's a Christian. If she's a Christian, there is a scripture that talks about the wife and the husband being together and the wife's prayer overshadowing the husband. That's a great tool. So if she is a Christian and you're hearing me tonight, the two of you are one. You have authority over your husband. Whatever you say concerning him, the Lord will answer because you have authority over him. So please, if you're a Christian, take that stand over your husband, over your home, and you will see those jinx it will break.
Amen.
Certainly.
Thank you so very much. Thank you
That
so
is
very much.
so true, Miss Angelica. It is, I think it is, forgive me, Mr. Davis, but it is the man is never likes to be challenged, and there are
Hmm.
always these so-called friends, you know. So you got to bring the fun indoors, you got to, instead of challenging him, if you challenge that person, this is
Mm,
your child, your husband, your friend, if
mm,
you challenge that person, you give them the power to take it as a duello. You have to be
mm,
flexible, bring the fun
mm,
in. He's
mm,
so
Yes.
fun that he says,
mm,
oh no, the fun is all indoors. And just
mm,
like you said, bring faith, and but
mm.
whatever you do, never challenge him, because what
Yeah.
happens is, in most
Mm,
of the marriages I know,
mm,
as a experienced divorcee who obviously challenged many times, the challenge is not an option. You
Mm-hmm.
cannot change others. You can change
Mm-hmm.
yourself. You can become the most fun person in the world. Instead of saying him no, make him say yes to yourself, because this
Yes.
friend, this fun is out there, and
Mm-hmm.
trust me, those fun out there is always funnier than you are. And yes,
Mm-hmm.
have faith in God, bring God to home, and have it. If you want to keep it, you are the fun. And for your husband, you can always be the funniest ever. And for your husband, there is no sin for you. You know, don't be
I
so
certainly
high.
I certainly believe with this panel, we can go on with this conversation on and on and on. This has just been an amazing panel. I invite you all to come back next week as we continue the conversation. You guys
Yeah.
have been an amazing panel, and I really appreciate the diversity of this group.
Yeah.
Because culturally, that was a great way for you to answer that question, because you are aware of the culture.
Yes.
And as she said,
Yes.
it is part of the culture, their culture, to have men and girlfriends out and
Mm-hmm.
out drinking. That's part of
Mm-hmm.
the culture. And we talked about that. And I'm going to turn it, after I finish this statement, I'm going to turn it over to you all to give your 1 minute closing on our topic today. Everything will get better. All the problems will go away once we get married, and the healing process. You may speak to that as well. I'll give each one of you 1 minute to speak about that. But before I turn it over to you, we talked about Lisa's concern a little bit last couple 2 weeks ago, and this is part of this is part of these conversations that you must have with the person you're getting ready to marry before you say I do, because it's unfortunate that once you say, my rule is you start out how you can keep out. Once you start out with a thing, once you start going with it, it's difficult to start backpedaling and telling someone you're not happy with something they're doing, especially if they've been doing it since you've got together.
Yeah.
That's it's just like a person who's a smoker. You don't like a man that smokes, or you don't like a woman that smokes. Don't date a smoker. Don't date them in the dating phase. And then once you get y'all get tight, then you say, I don't like you smoking. You need to quit. Because the immediate response was, you knew I smoked
That's right.
when I met you. You know what I mean? So it's the same thing. You start out how you can keep out.
Yes.
For our closing, I'm going to give everybody just quick 1 minute. Miss Angelique, I'm going to start with you first, darling, and then I'm going to let you give your closing, and then we'll continue on. We'll end with the Davises.
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Loretta, for tonight. Honestly, I wish we could stay on and on. But what I'm going to leave with our audience tonight is please, 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 especially for those who are yet to get married, there are some red flags that you acknowledge. The moment you acknowledge those red flags, things that you don't like, let me be precise, about the next person, share it with him, share it with her, discuss it. If there is no headway, please back out. A broken relationship is better than a broken marriage. Go your separate ways and try to heal
Good.
from those issues before you go back. It could be with the same person or with somebody else. Then, for those of us who are already married and you're facing those red flags, those things you don't like, those things you wish you could change, first of all, I want to tell you, you don't have any power to change anyone.
Right.
Only God has the power to do that. What I would
Yes.
counsel you to is to please find a counselor, or if you choose not, the both of you, if truly you want the marriage to work and you want to be together, choose to make it work. That's your first step. And your second step is to lay the cards on the table. What are the things you truly don't like? This is no more time of, oh, I like everything about him. Those things that you really don't like. If it's because he has his shower and there's water all over the place in the bathroom and is irritating you now, tell him, tell her, okay? They
Yes.
would change. So those little things that is getting you irritated and you want to walk out, discuss it with him. Communication is key at this point, at this stage of your relationship, if you want to make it work. Thank you so much, Dr. Loretta.
Thank you so much for those wise words, Miss Angelica. Thank you. But now, look, you spoke some truth there, Miss Ashley. Up next. What were your
Thank
closing
you, thank
statements?
you, thank you so much. This was such a blessing night, such a night of wisdom. God bless our guests. What I want to say is healing is within. So we are responsible for our own healing, and healing is something that we have to do our own selves.
Yeah.
Unless and even if we are healed, we should enter somebody else's lives, because marriage is a white page
Mm,
where we are going to write our own story with our very own pen. And at the same time, what we have mentioned is, if you focused at the start with an ending, it will never work. We have to understand marriage is not a success, it's a blessing.
mm,
So
Yes.
we have to understand that it is not something that we have to do. And if we feel we have got any question, just like I have, you have said, this period of time is a time of awareness that we consult to people, get coached, get consolated, because we attract to those we are alike. So if we are bad mood, we are going to attract worse person. So I would like to thank you for that. And you are so inspiring, Mr. and Mrs. Davis. I would like to give the voice to you, because here I am so inspired by you. And thank you so much for that, Dr. Loretta. I'm so blessed.
You're most welcome. And lastly, but certainly not least, Mr. and Mrs. Davis.
The Bible says, "He who finds a wife finds a good thing." So I would like to encourage those that are not married, if you want to be married, become a wife, not sexually, but learn to cook, learn to handle your finances, like do all of those things so that you are the good thing that can be
yes,
found.
yes,
Even for
yes,
men, handle
yes,
your, be honest with who you are and
yes,
what you need to work on, and get healing before you enter into a marriage. And to
yeah,
young women, God will lead you, the right person to you, if you trust Him, if you pray, if you work
yes,
on yourself. So these
yes,
are things that I just feel like that are very important, that young people, especially going into a marriage, need to deal with and talk about before they even get to that marriage of the, or that I do part.
yes,
Yes, yes.
And let me say thank you, Dr. Loretta, for this
Yes,
Thank
gathering,
you.
all the
yeah,
panelists that are giving this information. It is wonderful. I pray that it's helpful.
yes,
I would say to people that marriage is like an investment. Okay. And you don't get the dividends, you don't get the benefits until down the road, but you only get out of it what you put into it.
Yes.
exactly.
People go into the marriage with giving it their all. It can work, it will work. And the
Mm-mm-mm.
Bible tells us that where there's unity, God commands a blessing.
blessing.
So
Yes.
that's what we've got to begin to realize, that anybody can go separate ways, but how many of you are willing to be committed enough to stick
Exactly.
it out, to say,
Yes.
Yes.
no matter what, we're in
Mm.
this for the
We'll
Lord
be together.
Yes.
Yes.
to make it
Yes.
work. And if
Yes.
we go in there with
Yes.
this mindset,
Mm.
everything will be okay.
Yes,
Pray,
Yes.
do the work.
fast, and work at
Mm.
it.
Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
yes. Amazing. Thank you so much to all of my guests today. You guys have just dropped so many nuggets. I was trying to catch them all, but they were coming too fast. And I'm telling you, thank you so much. You guys are amazing. I truly appreciate all of you joining me today. For those of you who are watching, I want to leave you with this. Getting married. Our topic today was everything will get better in my life. All the wrongs will go away once I get married. And beloved, that is further from the truth.
Mm.
Whatever you are, or whoever you are, excuse me, going into the marriage will be who you are in
Mm.
the marriage. Take the
Mm.
time, heal
Mm.
yourself, go to
Mm.
counseling,
Mm.
pray,
Mm.
seek wise counsel.
Cancel. Yeah.
And when it's time,
Mm.
then and only then Well, I encourage you to say, I do.
Yeah.
I'm Dr. Loretta, and it was amazing talking to you. And I thank all of my guests for joining me today from every corner of the world. You have all kinds, you all brought something great to today's conversation. I love you. You have an amazing day. Bye bye.
Thank you.
Bye bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye bye.
Bye.